Reyes from the Miriam College Center for Peace Education and moderator of the Pax Christi HEU at Miriam College. Welcome to day three of this free Mother's Day webinar series titled When Values Matter Most in Identity Formation. So we have three objectives for today's discussion. First is to understand how our values as parents influence a child's identity. Second is to explore ways parents can model and teach values. And third is to strengthen family practices that nurture character. As children grow and begin forming their identity, especially approaching adolescence, they seek independence and meaning. This is where intentional and peaceful parenting plays a vital role in supporting their mental health. So it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for day three. She is Dr. Gail Reyes Galan, a dedicated psychologist, educator, and advocate for peace and family well-being. Dr. Galan currently serves as the Associate Director of the Center for Peace Education, as well as the Chair of the Undergraduate Psychology Program and PhD Family Studies Program. She is also the President of Pax Christi Pilipinas and a member of the Smart Parenting Board of Experts, where she actively contributes her expertise on parenting, child development, and mental health. She earned her psychology, sorry, she earned her Doctor of Philosophy in Child and Family Studies, reflecting her strong academic foundation and deep commitment to understanding family systems and child development. In addition to her professional work, Dr. Galang values balance and self-care. She maintains her well-being through walking and Pilates, and by spending meaningful time with her loved ones through family and friends too, reflecting her belief in the importance of connection and harmony in everyday life. As a peace and mental health advocate, she also shares her insights and creates meaningful content through her social media platform at Doc Gail Gala. So let us all warmly welcome Dr. Gail Reyes Gala. So Dr. Gail, you have the floor.
Thank you, Bianca. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. It's actually our session number 3, and I'm very excited to um, show to you, okay, um, some some of my insights. Share with you some of my insights, based also on my clinical practice as a psychologist. No? When I meet usually um, teens and young adolescents in the clinic, I usually note that some of their concerns really stem from their experience with their family. No? So I'd like to be able to share this with you, even if your kids are just um, in grade 3 or grade 4, or incoming grade 3 or grade 4. So the title is When Values Matter Most in Identity Formation, Healing Our Inner Wounds to become better parents to our child. Okay. So first, I'd like to share with you a photo of my family. We have 4 children. They're adults right now, and I have one teen. Their ages are 29, 26, 19, and 16. So maybe for you, aside from your grade 3 or 4 child, how old are your kids? You can share them in the chat box. Or if your kids are older, probably you have grandchildren. How old are they? Okay. So maybe so that we would know, we could find out from each other what our similarities are. So for today, I just want to discuss the symptoms of adult anxiety. And that is something that happens to us as parents. We worry a lot. And how does our own emotional state affect our kids? And, what we hold to be true, of course, becomes what also our children hold to be true. Okay. And what can parents do to raise emotionally resilient children, especially um, at this age now? So I'd like to talk about values. No? Values are the core beliefs, principles, or standards that guide behavior, decision making, and judgment of what is important. It's like our North Star, it is our why. They act as our personal or organizational compass, shaping actions and priorities. So common examples would be honesty, integrity, freedom, loyalty, and respect. Okay. So um, there's so many values, right? But for today, and we have limited time, I just want to focus on relationship values. So relationships are essential and important, um, of course, in raising a family. Okay, so some relationship values would include trust. Okay, do we trust our kids? Are we trustworthy ourselves? Okay, loyalty. Okay, how much value do you place on loyalty? And is it the selfish kind of loyalty? Okay, or um, kindness? Are we able to show kindness not only to our family, but also to people outside our family? Okay. Um, Empathy. Okay. So empathy is a value, a soft skill. Okay. Actually, they say soft, but it is an essential skill needed so that we would be able to relate well with others in a peaceful way. So that's why this um, session is called peaceful parenting. So from a parent's POV, no, or point of view, you might say, I've got 99 problems and 86 of them are completely made up scenarios in my head that I'm stressing about for absolutely no logical reason. So maybe you experience that as a parent, you worry a lot. And then when you think about it, why am I worrying about this? It's just a played up scenario in my head. Okay. So examples of what makes parents anxious, no? And I want you to pick out what in the list do you worry about the most. You can share it in the chat box. Okay. So we worry about our child's health, their grades in school, okay, their school performance, they're getting high grades if they're failing, too much screen time, sociability, are they able to make the right choice of friends? Okay, our reduced time together, especially when children get older, you notice that they prefer being with their peers. Safety and security, they ask permission to go out, but is it really safe? Is it okay? Okay, cultural and social influences. Okay, they get a lot of this in social media. We worry about our own health and other family members, especially if we have our own parents who are getting old or sick. Okay, financial issues. Sometimes it comes as a surprise. And toxic relationships. Okay. So how is it related to values, no? Or how is it related to your own? How is it related to your kids? So when we worry about these things, when we are anxious about these things, somehow it is transmitted to our kids. Okay. So some signs that we parents have parental anxiety would be avoiding putting a child in situations they perceive as harmful. Okay, so we're always worried about that. Vocalizing feelings of worry or stress. Ay nako, wag dyan. Eh baka kung ano mangyari sa'yo. Having persistent thoughts that something bad could happen. Okay, even maybe from past experience. Spending excessive time worrying over small details. So we parents are guilty about these things, no? And some causes would be environmental stressors, relationship or family issues, genetics. Maybe we are really a natural worrier. Medical factors, okay, substance withdrawal, okay, and others trauma, okay, because we have experienced trauma in the past, maybe as kids ourselves. So we seem to be more anxious. Everything is a trauma response. So maybe you've heard about that term trauma response. No? Now, in 2019, one 2019 review source analyzed 25 studies and concluded that children were significantly more likely to have anxiety and depressive disorders if their parents had an anxiety disorder. Okay. So um what happens to them later on has roots to how they are right now. Okay. So signs of anxiety disorder in children. Being afraid when parents are away from children, being afraid when away from parents, okay, or being with other children. Okay, if they don't see their parents, they get anxious. Being afraid of school and crowded places, feeling worried about the future, fearing that bad things may happen, being reluctant to try new things or take risks, having extreme fear about certain situations or things. Okay, for example, if they see dogs, they get scared, or if they get an insect bite, or going to the doctor. Okay, so if you see this in your kids and it's already distressing them, they're not able to function, then it might be time for you to seek professional help. So, how to manage parental anxiety? Okay, you can plan ahead, practice coping skills, be open to share how you feel. Okay, that's why webinars like this are very important. Okay, be aware that you might be transferring your phobia to your kids. Okay, so instead of developing, let's say, kindness, what you transmit would be worry or fear or you know um, negative things. Okay. So you may want to use stress management techniques, seek help, okay, and to some extreme extent, medication. Okay. So my favorite ways of coping would be okay, exercise, sunlight, okay, walking. So I walk 30 minutes in the morning before even going to work. Prayer and meditation. So just to clarify my mind, breath work and yoga, being with people. Okay, sometimes when things pile up, I take a break and then I go to another room, just have a little chat, and then go back to work. Time management. Okay, it helps that I have a calendar so I'm not anxious. Okay, aromatherapy, drinking herbal teas, time with pets. Okay, so these are all very helpful. So having anxiety and depression is like being tired, scared and tired at the same time. It's the fear of failure, but no urge to be productive. And funny enough, I hear this from my clients. No? Sometimes they're just in grade school and they already have this fear and being tired. Just waking up, they feel tired already. Being afraid to fail, so they don't try because they don't want to be laughed at. It's wanting friends but hate socializing. Okay, maybe sometimes you're also like that. You don't want to attend parties, you don't want to attend socials because you don't have the energy for that. It's wanting to be alone but not wanting to be lonely. Okay, it's caring about everything, then caring about nothing. It's feeling everything at once, then being paralyzingly numb. So if you think that you feel this way, okay, don't think that it's only for us adults, no? Because as young as your children are, they also have these already starting. It is important to tune in and manage our feelings. Children need our assistance, not our enemy. Okay, so I hope that we are the kind of parents who can be approached by our kids. So I wonder which generation you belong to. My guess is that you are from um, maybe Generation X or Generation Y, right? And if that's so, your kids are probably um, already beyond Generation Z. They might be in the Alpha generation already. Okay. So I will not go through this anymore. Silent generation could probably be your parents or grandparents. So if you're raised by them, then probably you will notice that, you have so much respect for authority, a strong work ethic, I think adherence to traditional values. Now, baby boomers, okay, they're known for being permissive and they emphasize self-expression, personal fulfillment. Now, if you are kids of baby boomers, so maybe if you're a millennial, your parents are probably baby boomers, then you might exhibit traits of being self-confident, independent, focused on self-growth, fulfillment, desire for work-life balance. Okay? So Generation X is my generation. And this is like, the first encounter of being a helicopter parent, always wanting to know what's going on in the child's life. Okay. It's super involved with kids. So I don't know if my kids are like this, but the kids born in this generation know nothing else besides being constantly connected, okay, through phones, screens, tablets. However, they are environmentally conscious, inclusive, accepting. That's why you have to be careful when you say things around them because they will correct you because they are very woke. You cannot just judge their friends because they respect friends, especially in any gender, right? Okay, um, so the Generation Y, the millennials, maybe you, are you known more for being involved, supportive, collaborative in your parenting approach? You prioritize open communication, positive reinforcement, and fostering a closer relationship with children. If this is you, then well done. Then we can expect your kids to, though they are tech savvy, they are open-minded, socially conscious, and adaptable to change. It's very important they are adaptable to change. They may also value diversity, creativity, and work-life balance. So these are the kids that we are expecting, okay, from you because you are millennials. So growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. So sometimes people get stuck because of their own trauma. So what happens if to our child if their parents are emotionally immature? Okay, what will happen if you have an emotionally immature parent? So there are types of emotionally immature parents. So um, most likely you're not any of them because you came to the webinar. But just for information, you may know some. These are emotional parents, driven parents, passive parents, rejecting parents. Okay, so emotional parents, they are subject to instability, often overwhelmed with anxiety. Their kids typically show anger, hostility, despair, sensitive to criticism. Okay, so that's what we transmit. Okay, so we have to be careful. Now, if you are a driven parent, you might be prioritizing getting things done. Huh? You value perfection, which makes their immaturity hard to notice because you seem to be really productive and good at what you do. Okay, is that good? Well, the kids typically conform to parents because you won't have anything less, right? Because you're a perfect parent. Okay? And sometimes they might resist parents and want to do things their own way. Okay, so even if we are driven, we have to be careful. Now, passive parents take a back seat in their children's upbringing to a point of allowing abuse and neglect. So their kids typically show insensitivity. You know, they don't have empathy. They don't know what other people are feeling. Lack of initiative. You know, they have to be wait to be told. Okay, and or sometimes they become assertive because nobody is stepping up. Now, if you are the type of parent um, where you seem to be always rejecting, you show no empathy. Okay, if you are detached and seem to have a wall around you, then your kids typically feel that they are annoying. You know, my parents don't like me. I think it's my fault. I don't feel supported, so therefore they have low self-esteem. So we have to be careful because if we are like that, okay, then it has an effect on our kids. Okay? Now, if you are narcissistic and you think that you're the greatest, and if your kids imbibe this, then they think that they're also entitled, they become self-righteous, they have no empathy, they feel that people should follow them or else they won't even notice that they're wrong. So we have to be careful because as young as they are, some children already show signs of narcissism. Okay? So emotionally immature parents tend to be prone to anger. Okay? They have difficulty expressing grief, especially those who feel that they're always perfect. They expect kids to read their minds, so they get mad if the kids don't get it, right? Has a sense of entitlement and may have favoritism. So the kids, your kids, okay, or the kids of emotionally immature parents, not you, because I'm sure you guys are okay. But for them, no, kids become hard on themselves. I see this in the clinic. They don't ask for help. They don't speak for themselves, does not speak for oneself. They miss out on opportunities because they don't want to try. They don't want to make a mistake. Okay. They don't want to make friends because sometimes they think that, they think negatively of the people around them. They feel ashamed of normal behaviors. Okay. So no matter how emotionally developed a parent is, communicating and connecting with their child can be challenging if they lack empathy. Okay, so we must value empathy in our relationship with our kids. Okay, so how do you know if parents lack empathy? This is how it looks like. Okay, avoid spending time with the kids. Okay, they're non-confrontative, refuse to engage in reflective thinking. Okay, they don't reflect. They just, they do their actions. They think it's the right thing. There's no room for reflecting, huh, because they just care about themselves. Rarely take responsibility for their actions. Remain distant from children. Okay, these parents don't really recognize that their children are hurting. Okay, self-interest becomes more important to them. Don't offer comfort to their kids, leading to mental health issues among children. Okay. So, what is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Um, right now, when I see cases of sometimes even as young as grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, no, they say that their friends are mean and they feel bad whenever they receive harsh comments or letters or messages that are simply mean. And sometimes they show it to me and I think to myself, oh my goodness, why would they do that? Why would they say that? Things like your hair is ugly or you're so weird. Okay? So there's no empathy on how a person might feel. Okay? They think that they're outspoken enough and by being so that they can be just truthful without regard for how other people feel. So it involves putting yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing things from their perspective if you have empathy. But if you don't have empathy, you can't put yourself in other people's shoes because you don't care. So 5 signs that parents may lack empathy could be dismissive. You display a dismissive response to the child's emotions. So what happens would be the child will not approach you anymore. Okay, invalidating their child's feelings. Wala yan. You have to be strong. During my time, we were all strong. Judgmental or highly critical of a child. Okay, why are you like this? Okay, you seem to be not doing anything. Lack of interest in their child's experiences. There's no follow through on any story. Emotionally unavailable when child needs support. So what happens would be the children look for their peers for support, or sometimes, they just keep quiet and not do anything and feel bad. So what do dismissive parents usually say? Stop overreacting. You're too sensitive. You're fine. There's nothing to be upset about. Okay? You find yourself saying that. Okay, or invalidating parents, you're just being dramatic. It's not a big deal. You shouldn't feel that way. Or sometimes it's the opposite na parang you don't give time to the child to feel bad. You want them to snap out of it right away. Okay? Judgmental parent, why can't you be more like your older brother or your older sister? You always mess things up. You can't do that. That's too hard for you. Okay? So it's judging their abilities. So they begin to think that, yeah, I can't do it because my mom says so, my dad says so. Now, uninterested parents would say, oh, I don't have time. I'm in a hurry. Hurry up. Okay, so what's the point? Okay, figure it out yourself. You're a big girl now or you're a big boy now. Okay, do what you want. Bahala ka. So, emotionally unavailable parents say, I don't want to talk about it. Stop bothering me. Deal with it yourself. So we tend to gravitate towards familiar situations, no? That's why we are like that sometimes. Our upbringing can lead to repeating the same patterns and failing to identify abusive patterns or abusive partners in the future. The traumatic effects of childhood isolation may still cause anxiety, despair, or nightmares. So let's take a look at our children right now. Do you think they're experiencing anything traumatic in their lives that's probably cause probably rooted from family or rooted from their friendships? Um, so how are they? Do you really know how they are? Okay. So we need to break the cycle. Need to recognize the signs of being emotionally immature. And we have to aim as parents to be emotionally mature. And we do this through effective communication. Okay, I've heard this in the last two sessions that you really have to go down to their level, speak to them. No, you have to turn your whole body towards them. Don't speak to them across the room. Come closer. Building resilience, okay, emotional regulation, cultivating empathy. Because if they don't know how to regulate their emotions, not, and you just allow them to be mad or you just allow them to, um, you know, rant or whatever, without some emotional regulation, they they don't outgrow it. They become like that when they're teenagers. Okay. Some you or your child might need to seek professional help. Okay. It would be good to engage in self-care, build a solid support network of friends, embrace personal. Okay. So I would like to end here. No? Okay. A poorly structured upbringing has left many individuals emotionally underdeveloped. Okay. So you might, when you came here to the webinar, you might be thinking, okay, how do I instill good values to my kids? Okay, how will they learn values? Is it the task of the family? Is it the task of the school? Okay. Of course, the answer is um, you, as the primary social unit, you're largely responsible for transmitting values. But the question is, what kind of values are we transmitting? Okay. So going back to um, your characteristics, let's say as a millennial or as a Gen Z, okay, notice how very involved you are in your children's affairs. Okay, that's a good thing. But my question to you is it just right or is it too much? Do you still allow your children to solve their own problems? Do you allow them to negotiate with a friend if they have a misunderstanding? Okay? If they have questions for the teacher, do you allow them to really stand up and ask the teacher politely? Or if they go home to you feeling sad, do you take that sadness as a signal for you to step in, solve problems for themselves, act like the hero of your child, you know, and not allow them to grow those um, brain connections to be able to solve their own problems. So that's very important because how you deal with it right now will have an effect on them when they become older, when they're in grade 5, grade 6, when they are in high school. Okay. So when I ask children, no, who are depressed or teens who are depressed, okay, what are you angry about? I always think that, if people say that they are depressed, okay, they are angry about something and they just can't say it. Yeah. And some of them, the first answer would be, oh, I don't get along with some of my friends, or I'm not motivated enough. Okay? But if you dig deeper, It's their relationship with their parents. Yeah? My father is uninvolved, doesn't seem to be interested in what I do. We only have very shallow conversations. He doesn't even know who my friends are. And yet, when I make paalam, there's just so many conditions, okay, and so many judgments, okay. And then my mom, okay, usually, okay, it's the mom who brings them to the center, no? But they would say, hey, my mom is very worried or she's very overly critical, overly concerned about, let's say, my grades or um, my disposition or whatever, no? But when I have a meeting with separately with the parents will say, no, we don't have any expectations from them to do well. And yet the child, in the conversation we've had earlier, they think that the parents have a very big expectation from them and they are falling short. Okay. So or sometimes it's the imposter syndrome na everybody thinks that they're doing well, but deep inside they are struggling. Okay. So that's why upbringing is very important. Okay. Because it has left many individuals emotionally underdeveloped. Okay. So aim for emotional maturity, no? Be self-aware, be empathetic, learn to manage emotions so that when your child needs to um, needs to interact with their classmates, it's very polite, it's very kind, it shows compassion, shows care, okay? They're able to show empathy because they have learned from you to manage emotions. They won't lash out, they won't demand, okay? And they will have, very strong values. Practice effective communication because that's how they will communicate with others. Okay? Set appropriate boundaries so that they themselves will know how to set boundaries with their friends so that they won't get easily affected with their friends' comments or actions. Okay? So there. Okay. So, are you yourself a product of toxic parents? Okay. So, this will make us think about our own parents. How were they to us? And how are we right now? How are we as kids? What did we carry with us that we are not so proud about? So it will be the same for your kids as well. Okay? Right. So toxic parents, they make child perform adult duties. Okay, so your kids are in grade four, grade three, grade four. Just be careful and make sure that what you give them is developmentally appropriate for their age and their ability. They hover over, hovering parents control everything in the child's life, okay, making the child feel suffocated. Okay, alcoholic parents have kids cleaning after them. Imagine that. Emotional abusers use derogatory remarks. And you can be sure if you do that, they will do the same to their peers. Okay, later on to their workmates. Okay, toxic parents can also be physical abusers, sexual abusers. Okay, so we have to be careful. So how to deal? Nobody will change unless they want to. Focus on building yourself from the ground up. Mindfulness can help free yourself of childhood toxins. So I will end here already. I'll stop sharing the screen. And I would like now to open the floor to some questions or bring it back to Bianca.
So thank you, Dr. Jill, for sharing all your insights and your expertise on today's topic. So I invite everyone to please type in their questions or perhaps raise their hand if they would like to ask anything. But I'll kick off by first asking Dr. Gill, how can parents effectively teach values in everyday situations?
Okay, then of course you can always use real life moments as teaching opportunities. For example, when a child sees someone drop money, a parent can encourage the child to, oh, return the money to this person. So reinforce values through daily routines. So example, say thank you. I know you do this already, no? So that they know how to express gratitude and encourage, I guess, open conversations about choices. Ask questions that help children reflect on action. So example, you can ask, how would your friend feel if you didn't share? So that will promote empathy.
Okay, so trying to cultivate these things every day. Okay, so how about another question? So, what roles does modeling play in value formation? Can you share?
Well, of course, a lot because our children observe us, even if you think they don't, even if you think your child's not looking, they're always looking. Okay, and sometimes they will call you out, right? So model behavior consistently. Children imitate what they see more than what they are told. So, for example, um, do you apologize to your child when you make a mistake? I apologize to my kids, especially when for example, if I really look irritated or if I raise my voice and it was not appropriate because I see it in their faces that they feel bad. I really apologize, and that teaches accountability for my actions. Okay. Demonstrate values in actions, not just words. So show integrity through everyday actions or decisions. For example, um, if you can, so sometimes ano, 'di ba, you want something but you want to make a white lie, tell your daddy like this. Okay? So that's encouraging children to lie. Even if it's a white lie or a soft lie, still a lie, right? So refuse to lie even in small situations. Okay? Because if not, they will think that they can just get away with this. Okay? So you can also create a value-driven environment. So align family actions with um, certain beliefs. So for example, volunteering together to model compassion. So even with my kids, we like to volunteer a lot. I like to um, expose them to different kinds of people. I've brought them to communities, inside communities. I've made them play with community children so that they can be flexible when they grow up. Okay? But they can also deal with classmates um, who have maybe who are higher social economically, but they are flexible. Okay, so there. So you have to model the behavior.
Yes. Okay. So we have a question here in the chat box from Miss Natasha Concepcion. I believe she said that she used to be a student in our grade school. So it says here that she's not sure what kind of parent am I if my kid has autism po, special needs po, tawag or something else po.
So she's asking what kind of a parent she is, Natasha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Well, Natasha, because I'm sure it will require a lot of special care to take care of children who are extraordinary, and because you're able to do that, then you are a very nurturing parent. I encourage you to learn more, let's say, about your child's condition, so that this early you can take the necessary steps to be able to support your child so that your child can flourish and learn skills, so that by the time your child gets older, she would be able to regulate her own emotions even in public spaces, be able to interact well with people, and would be able to really function with minimal assistance. Now, because I know you will be able to do that, then you are doing a great job as a parent.
Okay, thank you. So Ms. Natasha, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so one last. So I have another question here. How can parents guide children when their values are challenged by their peers?
Okay, yeah, because I guess there's a certain point when our own children, okay, will challenge will be challenged by their peers, no? So you have to teach critical thinking about peer influence. Okay? Don't take them away from their peers because the more they'll it's like a magnet, right? But teach them to be also to think critically, help children evaluate situations independently. For example, if their friends are cheating, discuss why cheating is wrong, even if their friends do it. If their friends are copying homework, discuss why it's wrong, even if it's a norm in school. Okay, they come early because they copy homework. Okay, so teach them to be critical about those things. Role play challenging scenarios. So prepare children for real life pressures. So example, practice how to say no to bullying or to unsafe dares. Like, I dare you to do this, or I dare you to say this, or I dare you to text this, I dare you to show this picture. Okay. So so that they have the brain connections on how to deal with it, role play it. Okay, so that it's not a surprise and they won't act impulsively. And then provide emotional support and reassurance. So validate feelings while reinforcing values. So example, comforting a child who feels left out, for doing the right thing. So it will happen that your children are with friends, and then because they stood up for the right values, they will be isolated. Your friends will fade away. But teach them, no, that it's okay, that true friends will always try to do their best to do the right thing. They will be accountable. They will feel sorry and try their best to not repeat it again.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Gill, for sharing those techniques with us. Um, so today's webinar will be coming to a close, and I would just like to thank Dr. Galang again for being here with us today. Dear parents, values are the compass that guide our children through life. As they grow more independent, especially during pre-adolescence, these values will shape their choices and relationships later in life. Let us continue to practice intentional and peaceful parenting to nurture not only their identity, but also their mental health and well being. So I enjoin everyone to kindly fill out the short evaluation form by clicking the link found on the chat box. So here you go. I will also be sharing a QR code here on the screen. So you may also take a photo of this if you prefer. Okay, so once again, this is Bianca Reyes, and on behalf of the Miriam College Center for Peace Education, Miriam College, Loyola Heights, Nuvali, and Aviera, and PAX Christi Pilipinas, thank you everyone, and most especially to our esteemed speaker for today. On this Mother's Day, we honor the quiet strength, selflessness, and unwavering love that define motherhood. May you continue to guide your children with compassion, wisdom, and a nurturing presence that helps them grow with confidence and care. So, thank you again, everybody, and have a good rest of your day.